Hello, everyone, and welcome to Humans of Talos. Happy December. We are here today with Lexi DiScola. Lexi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be chatting with you.
Wonderful. So first, can you just introduce yourself? What do you do here at Talos? What team do you work on? What does your day-to-day look like?
Sure. So I'm on the strategic analysis team here at Talos. I joined about 3 years ago. So what my team does is it's a whole bunch of things really. But we focus on tracking and analyzing major trends in the cyber threat landscape. We maintain intelligence sharing relationships with a bunch of private sector and government partners. We conduct regular threat hunting activity in our telemetry and act on that. We support the Talos incident response team. And then we also, which is my favorite part, produce written analytical products. So that's, blogs, intelligence bulletins, threat assessment reports, and then, of course, our annual year in review report, which we actually just started working on. We have kicked into high gear just prepping for the year in review, taking all of the data that we've accumulated the past year and seeing what trends we can pull out of it. It sounds maybe to some people kind of like a headache, but for us, it's fun. So we're looking forward to it.
What made you want to join Talos, and when did you join?
So I joined about 3 years ago this fall. I worked in cyber threat intelligence in a government position before. Um, so because of that experience, I was kind of always aware of Talos's reputation in this space. So when I was looking to make the shift to the private sector from the government, I knew I would be working with some of the best when it came to Talos. I knew I wouldn't be stagnant if I came here. And that was my focus in a new position. I always want to be learning and working towards something.
When you were, first getting into the field, did you have a technical background? Or, did you go to school for something different?
No, I did not have a technical background. I went to school for political science and French were my two majors, and criminology was my minor. Um, I studied abroad and I studied abroad in South Africa. I worked in a few prisons. I was kind of interested in just social justice and criminal reform, that kind of thing. Once I started working in the government, they kind of placed me in cyber. And at first I was like, "Oh gosh, this is definitely not what I wanna do, like, I don't know anything about this." Um, but I always say, like, I could not be more grateful that I got, the education and the training in the cyber field. Firstly, I just think it's, you know, the most interesting and the most developing, aspect of, like, conflict and criminology and warfare that we have. Um, but it's also obviously there's so many opportunities, beyond just government, working in cyber.
Um, so kind of going back to what you do here at Talos, what is something about your role, day to day that you love or, if there's something that you look forward to getting to do?
I think the thing I love most about this position is just the diverse group of people I work with. I think that's the special part of having a remote team is just working day to day with colleagues who are dispersed internationally. They have unique perspectives, unique skills, and unique relationships with local partners that keep things interesting. I focus specifically on one country and I meet with a bunch of colleagues who are based really so far internationally. We have, six or seven different countries represented on this one team I work on. So it's great to have those resources, to have those people that are, on the ground in so many different countries.
One of the questions that I was asked in my interview here was like, do you have experience working with global teams? And what is that like? And so I'm curious if you have any thoughts or advice for people who, are working with global teams where there might be like either cultural differences or language barriers or things like that?
The intelligence you can gain from working with someone who's based internationally is worth, waking up early or staying up a little later. Um, but I think too, something that's so valuable with working with foreign partners is and foreign colleagues is the relationships that they have with their local governments, local companies. We can always reach out to people who are based internationally, but if you have someone there who knows the language, knows the culture, I think that makes such a huge difference. And like that benefit can't be understated. So I love having colleagues that can reach out to, like, say we have a victim in one specific country, and it's like, how do we establish a relationship? How do we give them intelligence and get intelligence back? And if we have someone who speaks the language, who knows the culture, that just makes that relationship so much easier. So it's such a huge benefit. And yeah, I'd say you just have to be flexible.
So what is something that you are passionate about outside of work that fills your cup for these busy times of year when you have to write the year in review?
So I love to read. I have like a social media account where I post my book reviews. So publishers will always send me books to look at and to read. I have this huge stack in my kitchen that drives my husband crazy because it's always in the way of books that I'm just trying to get to. But it's something that definitely helps settle my mind, especially at the end of the day. I don't want to be thinking about work before falling asleep. So yeah, just love to read. I have a very high energy dog. So I love to get outside with her at least once a day. I think it's important to have that fresh air. And then I love to travel. My husband and I love to travel. Our daughter is about a year and a half old, and we've been lucky enough to take her to a few different countries already. So having those experiences together is so worth the pains of traveling with a toddler. It's special and we love it.
What advice would you give someone who is trying to join a team like Talos or, break into cybersecurity or kind of take their career up to the next level?
My advice would be, don't fret if you're not super technical. I think there's a way to learn how to be technical enough, but also bring in valuable skills to this environment and have a positive impact. I think I definitely struggled with imposter syndrome, with just thinking, well, I can't code and I can't reverse engineer malware. But then learn to recognize that I do have these other skills of understanding more strategic implications of this activity and digesting it and regurgitating it in a way that's consumable for other lay people, which I think is a valuable skill. So, yeah, just don't give yourself don't beat yourself up too much if you're not technical.
What are your favorite resources for staying up to date with current trends in cybersecurity?
I think I mean, there's multiple sources of input that I look at. I think OSINT is open source intelligence is a huge tool. Especially looking at, like I said, I focus like on a specific country, but just if you're looking at nation state actors, looking at their local reporting, translating it into whatever language is convenient for you. I think that's super helpful. Also, in terms of OSINT, looking at competitors or cybersecurity researchers reporting is also definitely useful. I really rely on the people I work with. Like I said, Talos has so many talented people. They're always so willing to help. So, um, at first, when I first joined, I was definitely hesitant to be like, I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? But as I've gotten to know people better, I don't feel so embarrassed to ask those questions anymore. And I think it's a two-way street. You always feel embarrassed to ask someone for help, but down the road, they may be asking you for help on something that you're an expert in. So I think just asking people and not being afraid or feeling embarrassed has served me well.
Lexi, thank you so much for joining me. It was really wonderful to have you on.
Of course, thank you so much for having me, Amy.
Please subscribe to our channel so that you can be notified when we have new episodes up. Have a wonderful rest of the month, and I'll see you next time.